Hi friends, in our time together today, I'm sharing a fun practice that I found that will help us learn breath control and how to play our whistles better. And I think it's actually a fun exercise, and I know it's going to help you. The basic idea is that you get 2 to 3 of your whistles and you play each of them, but you pay attention while you're playing. You play a scale on each, pay attention to what you need to do to play the whistle well. How much pressure is required to hit the note cleanly in the lower octave, in the upper octave? How much volume change can you get? Can you be expressive on the whistle? Play each of the 3 whistles back to back. Or if you only have 2, play them back to back. And if you have one, just play it. So what I'm going to do is play a scale and a tune on 3 whistles that I have here to share as an example. I have the Shush Pro High D, the Wild Irish High D, and the Mazur High D. And yes, this is also going to serve for you as a comparison, a tone comparison, and a descriptive comparison between these 3 whistles. But this is more intended as an exercise for you and me to learn to play our whistles better. I've talked about breath control before, and that's kind of the core of what this is. Breath control to learn to play your whistle well. And we've talked about that a lot, but it is so very important. Actually, and I'm not certain if I've shared this before. So Ralph, great member of our community who has some great contributions in the comments, recently said in one of the comments, in my experience, nothing has improved my whistle playing quicker and more dramatically than learning breath control. I completely and wholeheartedly agree with Ralph in that comment. That has been my experience, and I'm certain it will be yours as well. And so this exercise is designed to help us to facilitate that experience of learning what it takes to play a whistle well. So, like, the way I need to play the Shush Pro well is going to be different than I need to play the other 2 whistles well. Not necessarily dramatically. These don't have to be like dramatic differences. I'm not asking you to I'm going to play a session whistle and I'm going to play a quiet whistle. No, I get things very similar, and that will help you figure out also what to do there, and so that's pretty helpful. So what I want to do is I'm going to play a scale on each first, and I'll have a few comments as I do that. So play a scale on the Shush Pro. Okay, so it's a little louder in the second octave than the first. I feel like I want to say it wants more gentle air, but it doesn't, but it still wants a good solid stream of air. And you can vary the volume, but you have to be careful that you don't go flat doing that. Okay, so that's a difference there, and it wants a little more air in the second octave than the first to play it well. I know some of that because I've played it a while, and so if you're just learning a whistle, the first time you do this exercise, you might go, let me try that again. Anyway, the Wild Irish. Okay, so the wild Irish wants a slightly bigger volume of air, a little more pressure, particularly in the second octave. I can, if I push the Shush Pro real hard, especially in the lower octave, it's going to start breaking. Now, if I use that same pressure on the wild Irish, it will break, but it'll take longer to break. See, these are things you're learning on the differences. So there's not like a huge difference between these two whistles, but there is a difference, and that's pretty interesting. Move to the Mazur now. Now, again, like I said, I've included the Mazur because I don't know it quite as well, but I know it enough. In the lower octave, it requires just a little less air than the wild, and a little more air than the shush. But I can probably, with control, vary the volume a little more on the Mazur than I can on the others before it wants to break into the second octave. That's quite fascinating. See, if you go through this exercise, you're going to learn these things because it's forcing you to pay attention. Now, when you get into the second octave on the Mazur, it still wants a good full volume of air, but it wants you to push just a little more to get the tone quality. So it's going to require you to lean into it a little bit more. If I use that same breath pressure on, let me see if I need to use that same breath pressure on the wild. No, I don't need to use the same breath pressure on the wild. The shush, yeah, huge difference. Now, the fact that the Mazur requires more air forcing through it is not a bad thing, is not necessarily a good thing. It's a thing. You have to know this to play this whistle well. And you learn it by playing your whistle side by side and going, oh, that's how I do that. See, when you play one and then you go to the other, it's going to mess with your head. And so when you put them side by side, it's really going to help. Some of the differences are really subtle. So what I want to do now is I'm going to play on each of these to close our time out. And I'll have a few closing comments. I'm going to play after the Battle of Algram because it's a slower tune that gets up into that second octave, but it's also a tune where you can really let some of the notes sing. And it's going to require me playing each of these whistles to figure out how to make the whistle sing a bit. Now, I'm still working on learning that. So don't hold, if I don't make them sing well, don't hold that against the whistle. After the Battle of Algram, without repeats, on the Shush Pro first. Because they have different characteristics doesn't mean one is less lovely than the other. They're all different. I love the Shush Pro. And I think that is just the most delightful tone to it, but you have to learn how to play it. If you go in and you bully this whistle, it will fight you and it won't sound good at all. Now, same thing on the Wild Irish. And I'm going to have to shift gears quickly to play this differently. It's interesting. Conducting this exercise, I realized that on a lot of the notes, particularly in the lower octave, the breath pressure required to play the Shush Pro well is not that dissimilar to playing the Wild Irish well. That's quite fascinating. But at the same time, you've got a different range as to what you can do when you're learning all this. Let me try the same thing on the Mazur. See if I can shift gears to do that. Alrighty, that's the Mazur. I really like all three of these whistles for different reasons. Interestingly, the Mazur, I said the Shush is pretty consistent. Breath pressure requirements top to bottom, a little bit more in the second octave. The Wild similar, but again a little bit more in the second octave. The Mazur, interestingly, has the greatest breath pressure requirement in the second octave, probably starting in the second octave E. Oh, I missed that one. I'm having to focus my air a little bit more. Now, that's not a comment on the whistle. It's a comment on learning to play the whistle. And that's why I'm recommending this exercise. Because what it's going to do is it's going to force you to pick up one whistle and compare it to another. And that is so healthy and so helpful for us to learn to play each whistle well. So grab 3 of your whistles, try this out, use the scale, and use whatever tune you want. Use a fast tune, use a slow tune. If you only have one high D, then do it with that one. But if you have a high D and a low D, then do it with those two. Mix and match. If you have a B flat and a high D, mix and match. I'm liable to do a similar recording, maybe next week, with 2 low Ds, just to show you another comparison there. So anyway, this gives you a good comparison between these whistles. It helps you, mainly, it's an exercise to help us learn how to play our whistles well. So my friends, take this, use it for yourself, and see what's required to play different whistles well, and that will help you learn how to play each of them. Until next time, this is Scott Shade. Happy whistling, my friends.